in our community and everywhere else. We want to keep everybody doing their job and doing it well. So since going to the 3-4, 2017 was my first year here, and we were a 4-3, 4-2-5 hybrid. We're giving up 27.8 points a game. Now, some of that obviously is personnel based, and our heaviest defensive lineman was 225 pounds that year, 230 pounds, and a four-man front. So our personnel obviously dictated that we didn't have a lot of big, heavy guys, and so we made the switch in 18 to the 3-4. Gave up 12.9 points a game that season, and in this past season, 14.9 points a game. So we've done a lot better, obviously, in this defense, and our personnel fits it or has fit it really well these last 2 years. So when we're preparing for these drills, one of the things I think all coaches need to do, you can write up all these drills, you can talk about what you want to do, but are you prepared when you go into practice for these fundamentals? Your drill work. When you're looking at that, what do you want to get out of it? Do you have that stuff written down when you get out to practice, or are you just trying to go off the top of your dome? Pen and paper, I put book or script, depending on what it is you're asked to do by your head coach. I typically make our book, but I expect all our guys to have a script and a pen to jot anything down. Hey, coach, I want to see this play again, or that, whatever we're trying to do again as a group. Do you need a stopwatch? Are you in charge of special teams? Are you trying to time something with your guys to, hey, I need to know if this is really fast or doing this drill and or this technique, I've changed it. How do I know it's faster? So you may need a stopwatch. I put a question mark there. You should know that. And then you have the ability to video your drills as well as your team periods. I think that goes a long way. We try and do that. We have some guys who help us. Some of our coaches will bring their phones out for specific days. We don't like to have our phones out at practice, for anything but this, but it is something to know and plan as part of your drill work, part of your practice. So that's big. Obviously, being on time is a big one for every head coach everywhere. But being on time to your drill, being on time, everybody talks about being on time to practice, but how is it about being on time to the next, you've all been in practice where you're waiting on that dude, man. You're waiting on the OL guy or the DL guy to get over there, and we're waiting, we all know all of us love our drill work, and you're waiting on that guy, but be on time so that everybody else isn't waiting on you. And one of my big things is when you go over to your drill work every day, you need to have a tone setter. I don't care what it is. For me, it's warm-ups. Hey, we're going to do warm-ups. We're going to do them this way. And our guys are going to know, hey, what's our first thing? What are we doing them? If it's not done right, I'm going to set the tone early. I don't like to up down just for no reason. But if I set that tone in my warm-ups, my guy, we're not going to do the little things wrong. I think that goes a long way. We do them all on the whistle. Guys understand how to do that. So set the tone early in your drill work, regardless of position. And obviously, we're talking about outside linebackers. So before we talk about fundamentals, we got to talk about, what dictates fundamentals. All right. So how do I know what I should be drilling? So in the 3-4, we play a lot of man coverage. Again, Justin's probably laughing. He calls plays against us. We play a crap ton of man coverage. But we've got some zone coverages with cover 2 and some wrinkles to our cover 2, depending on your sets and things and checks we've got. So you got to know those things. Like, what is it you're asking guys to do? I don't want to go out every day and do the same thing, over and over again, unless that's exactly what I need to be doing. So questions you got to ask dictate your fundamentals. Where are you playing them? What coverages are you in? How are you getting lined up? Meaning, are they switching sides or are they staying on sides? Because I think you've got to find a way to practice that. If get into that position, that stance, that's going to be advantageous. If you're if you're going to be switching all over the place or ask what you're asking them to do, getting lined up. What skills are you asking them to perform then from those things pre-snap? What are we asking them to perform post-snap or in-game, in-snap? What are those things and how are we practicing them? And then for all defensive personnel and, secondary guys, I've talked to some corners guys who are not as big on it, but I think all defensive personnel, your first fundamentals you start with are tackling, but then work on what else, identifying what else it is. And like I said, I've coached 4 or 5 different positions. I always try and start off with this when I'm planning my practice out and trying to get my fundamentals right. Know your defensive scheme first, okay? So know what your head coach wants from your position. What does he want those guys to do? And then can your kids execute that plan? It's going to be huge. It's going to be big that your kids are able to do what you ask them to do. If not, we got to talk about, maybe we don't need to be in a 3-4. Maybe we need to be in something else. Can those guys execute what we want them to? All right, so this is how I set up what are my fundamentals. So in our system, So you understand why I'm talking about what I'm talking about today with our fundamentals. All right, we've got a linebacker here in our Willie, who he's going to be mostly in coverage in our man stuff, and you got a linebacker here in the Sam who's going to be a run-first player. That's base. That's a base call. Now, obviously, we have some calls that will completely change that. But, all right, we got to start somewhere. So we're starting with our kids. We're looking for a kid who can play linebacker and tackle well, but he's a little better coverage guy. And this guy's maybe a little better box player, probably more of a 4-3 guy, outside linebacker at that point. He's not a defensive end, but he's got to be able to do some similar things there. All right, so that's going to be big for us. The other thing we need to understand is that means they got to be dudes, man, for our defense. If these kids can't play for us, we're going to be in trouble, all right, if they can't do what we're asking them to do. Now, if we're asking them to do something that they shouldn't, that's on us as coaches, all right? But we've got to know what they've got to do, and that's kind of where we're at. If you got a base slant here, you can see the gaps fits, where that Sam's got to fit, all right? So what that means is, and I'm not going to do a ton of tackling drill stuff because we all have that, but I am showing you these are the tackling things that our guys have to master, okay? So when you're talking about our outside linebacker guys, you've got to master angle tackles, all right? Roll tackles, obviously, from chasing the guy down if you don't have the angle on him. And then mostly any drills we do with space. That includes drills that come off of our block destruction series, right? So then the next thing for me they had to be able to do for our, like if you're talking about our Sam, he's got to be able to do block destruction, okay? Which I try to identify the blocks he's got to be able to do to take on. He's got to be able to take on a reach block, all right? He's got to be able to take on a pull, all right? He's got to be able to take on a square up block where there's a two-way go. And he's got to be able to get cross face on a defensive end, defensive end on a tackle, a lot like a defensive end would be, depending on what we're doing, whether we're stunning him or whatever. So he's got to practice those block destruction drills. Both guys have to be able to read offensive tackle or an H-back depending on what set you're in. So we work the drill we call it is OT H-back reads because those reads could be the same for either one of those guys. And so we work those reads, those block reads, off of that. We initially work just the destruction, and then we'll work the reads where they have to see that and react to it appropriately, not knowing which one's coming. And then we'll work off that. We'll work some block destruction, a read, and then a tackle drill. So that's kind of a progression there. Also, we had to work man coverage, and we had to work that from an off position, what we call scooch, a press position, and then we have to work tailback coverage. So these are all things within our system we've identified our outside linebackers have to do. Now, I told you a while ago, one of those guys is predominantly a pass guy, and one of them is predominantly a run, but we all know, these offensive guys get creative. They're going to try and put a guy in a bind who doesn't normally cover, doesn't it? So we've got all kind of things we've got to work. Even with our run-first kind of guy, he's got to work the pass stuff, and our pass-first guy's got to work the run thing because, those guys are going to look at a guy and say, hey, what is he used to doing? Let's try and get him outside of his comfort zone. And while they may not have seen it in film, I better have drilled it every week so he's comfortable in those situations. Lastly, all these guys got to understand their run fits on not just themselves on a tackle drill, but I think that's something that, we got to do. We got to get better and better at. The more the offense gets various, they vary what they're doing. We got to figure out where the run fits when they run these things. And so our guys have got to know that and learn how to fit. That's not typically an individual drill. That's typically us and the inside linebackers or us and the D-line coming together to work some of those fits. Sometimes even with the secondary, depending on, what we're working that week. If those guys are playing 3 and 4 wide, a lot of times we'll work those run fits or even catch after the pass fits on tackle fits afterwards. My big thing with coaching here, all right, don't get mad in a game if your kid can't do something you hadn't practiced, right? You got to build that kid up and get through the game, but you got to realize, oh, shoot, that guy's done that, and this kid hadn't practiced the skill. If we've been, for instance, my Willie, if he's been covering a slot receiver for 3-4 weeks in a row, and I have not worked block destruction on a tight end, all of a sudden I'm playing against, I don't know, anybody we play who all of a sudden puts an H-back or tight end in the game against Scotland County, and all of a sudden he can't play off that block, and I haven't worked it. I can't get mad at that kid when I haven't worked it. That's on me. So I think you still got to throw some of this stuff in, plan your practices out weekly, so that you're getting your stuff needs to go with a game plan. But there may be I still have to work block destruction off a tight end every week at some point because somebody can get into it. All right. This is kind of what our practice schedule looks like. You can see all the different positions up here. So my guys, I normally put whatever I'm coaching in the middle because I had to do a little bit more in practice and know that kind of stuff. So for me, that's the big reason that my position's in the middle a lot of times. It's either that or sometimes I'll put on the edge so I can see some things. But normally I'm in the middle here. So with that, you can see all the way it's all organized. I know a lot of you guys do the same thing. But here's where, and I think I got this from the next to last week of the season. So you can see scooch 3, react. All right, I'll talk through some of these drills where I'm working a scooch technique. All right, and a reaction drill, a 6-point explode. I'll go through all that. Reach, push, and pull. All right, these are some of our block destruction drills. Tight end H-back reads that week versus OT, but it's the same thing. And so you can see what we're working off that. I'm actually working some blitz combos off of those reads. All right, and working some different. These are techniques where those guys would not necessarily be in their normal spot. So I've got to work it off of that. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how I script practice for myself every day. And you can see how all other guys script in. You see our secondary guys actually, they got one-on-one as part of their indie. When that's kind of one of the ways we do it in that 20, 25-minute block to understand some of those group periods. All right. So drill progression, I think we talked about, first we identify what are our fundamentals, what are our drills, what is it we need. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we want to talk about, okay, how do I progress? All right. I've talked about that a little bit already, but right. So question I got there, okay, like, should you work reads if you hadn't worked block destruction? And I don't think so. I don't think, all right, I can read that tackle, but what am I going to do once I know where he's going? So I think I've got to have a definite pattern to how I set up my drills. Now, you saw my stuff the previous page. I was into the season where it jumps around a little bit. In the spring, this is the best time to do this. Now, we're losing the spring now, so this might mean we're doing it a little bit more in preseason or summer than what we would normally do. But normally in the spring, we work these things in a definite progression, right? So that's big. And then we talk about, should you work fits if you haven't even worked how to tackle in space? And again, I don't think so. Just get that progression down for your guys if you're going to do some variations to what I'm doing. In season, like I got, organize your drills daily and weekly is a must. So I might have certain things I do on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays that are baseline things, but it may change depending on the offense slightly. But should be some things, like I said, I got to work certain block instructions. I got to work certain coverage steps and work every week to make sure my guys are doing it. And then check it off. Make sure you've gone back to your drills. So you can look back at your drill sheet and say, you know what, I haven't worked this drill in about 3 weeks and we hadn't seen it. Let me throw this back in so my guys stay fresh, my guys stay ready. And we work stance and eyes first in everything we do and that's every position. Before we start talking about any drills, any tackling, we work what stance to be in. And if it's multiple stances, how to work those multiple stances and where our eyes should be. So I'm not going to talk, I'm saying this because I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but understand with all my guys and going through these drills, they have gone over that first before we go through anything else. And I've always made sure they've done that. But that's, coaches, we should know that. I'm not going to show a bunch of clips of my guys just looking at each other's hips and things like that. So we've worked those things. All right, so I'm going to show you the videos, but I'm going to show you the block destruction progression I have for my guys. The first thing is just 6-point explode. The next one is a 4-point explode. The next one is a 4-point snatch. And I call 4 points because I'm talking about the way I do this is 6 points are my knees and my toes in the ground. My hands are on the guy. 4-point is going to be my feet are on the ground. My hands are attacking the guy. And so then a 4-point snatch is, hands on the ground. I'm attacking him and snatching him off. A reach and a rip drill, block destruction. One-arm lever, what we call one-arm leverage. I abbreviate that lev, one-arm lev, but it's a leverage block destruction with one arm. A down and a squeeze technique. And then then the next progression is to our reads, all right? So here's my videos right here. All right, so this is 6-point, all right? He doesn't have his hands where I want him. I want him back here at his hips, all right? So some of these drills are not perfect. And remember, these guys come out in the spring to give me this drill tape, all right? So we put our hands should be back behind, cocked, ready to explode into this guy. 1, 2, those are 2 points, and these are going to be a 3 on each side. So that's my 6-point explode. You can see we'll rep this multiple times. I'll get that guy leaning, falling down, boom, and get explosion into him right there. So that's exactly what I want. Then we'll trade over. Normally I do it 3 times, and then I trade over to the next drill, all right? So now we move to 4-point. Again, this is our progression. right? And now that's exactly what I want to see. I'm going to play out again, how he comes forward with that. I don't want to just stop my feet. I want my feet moving. I want those guys to completely replace it, right? Right now, he moves them a little bit. I'd like to see him continue to kind of be on the balls of his feet, moving forward, maybe a couple other steps there. But I don't want him running and falling forward because he can't redirect off of that block later on once I start teaching him, where to fit. So, again, one more time, how square. I'm going to pause this. Bang. I want him landing square like that so he can go either way. All right? So, here's my snatch. Before I go snatch and replace and punch it, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to just go ahead and put my hands there, 4-point, and have him snatch off. All right? So that's exactly how I want that to work every time. He knows where his fits are. I teach him his fit. Bang. There it is. So now he's going to bring those hands, and he's going to punch it. Bang. Right? And snatch him off. One more time. He wants to bring, again, I don't like his hands being quite that far inside on this. I like for him to be more outside his knees, ready to that's a little coaching point for him that we can work on to continue to get better. And what I will do with that, he just went straight ahead, but we'll work, replacing back underneath that guy even a little bit better than that, depending on what we're working against, what I'm having that guy play, what plays. All right? All right, so next thing here is now you'll watch these guys. When I do the read, right, when I do, the reach, I don't do that so he knows it's coming. I'm standing behind those guys, and I got my hand there, and I'll drop my hand, and this guy will react to me. Boom. So he's going like a snap count, and now that gives me a little more realistic. I got to try – now, you can see he misses initially. He misses initially with that hand. I want to tag that shoulder, right? He's trying to get there, but he does block that hand there, all right? So once he blocks that hand, once he blocks his hand here, he's able to get back recentered, and now he's able to get off. Now, he doesn't ever rip on this, right, which I don't like. I don't like that he doesn't rip here. All right, so let's look at that one more time. Boom, right? He pushes off of him, gets leverage back, but I want to see him rip off at the end. You'll see that a little bit later, all right? So here, this is our one-arm left. Again, I want him under the pad. What I'm trying to teach this guy is an attack point on his shoulder pad, how he can leverage underneath that guy. Now, we will do this from a running position, all right, or from off a lot of times, all right, when we're working drills, block destruction stuff. But I don't want to do that over and over again and hammer my guys. So I want them just working fit here, working fit. It's just a drill. Fit underneath, that's where it should fit. I should leverage this guy, push off, there's my back, bang. And so that's where I incorporate a little bit of a tackle skill into it, get your head, try and get it back across. Obviously, we can talk about when we would roll tackle or whether we would go across and continue to drive that angle back and back home. All right, so one more time. Again, this is what we call one-arm left. Boom, come off, know where it is. So we're trying to take that gap, push this guy in the gap, force this guy to our gap right there in our run fits. All right, so here, now what we're doing is we're reading the down block. Now he knows what's coming. He's guessing this a little bit, but we work this so that we fit it first before we start working reads. So he knows he gets a down block. If I'm reading a tackle, and that's our thing, on a tackle or an H-back, if that's my read, and he blocks down, I got to come off of his butt to fit this gap correctly. So I read that. If there's a down, I've got to fit. Now look at the space he allows here. This is the coaching point. I just left the video bad. All right, we want to be able to close that space on that. We're going to take this blocker, right, and we do – I know a lot of guys wrong shoulder. We don't wrong shoulder an hour 3-4 with our outside linebackers based on our run fits. And that's a whole nother discussion and a whole clinic talk on our run fits. And we know our run fits and how they work and what the double teams are based on our slants. So based on that, the only thing my outside linebackers have to work is they have to work boxing it, not wrong shouldering it, okay? So that's why we work this. But we do want to still, when we box it, we don't want to run up the field, right, and run ourselves out of there. Sorry, guys. Went one, there we go. All right, so we don't want to box ourselves out. So ideally, he's downhill. He's going to close that space back that way as far as possible. And then with our other fits there, that guy ought to be able to either bounce to him to his open arm, or we should have somebody in that gap in our fits, right? All right, so from this next thing, and Coach, stop me at any point. If guys got questions, it's pretty simplistic stuff, but I think it's important to organize it like this. The next thing we progress to is our reads. And again, we work this as an H-back OT read. If it's a tight end read, that, if I'm working an H-back tight end, that means I'm working pass routes in with my reads, all right? For me, this means it's all run fit reads. If it's H-back, OT read progression, it's all run fit reads here initially. And so that's what I work before I start throwing pass stuff in, all right? So what we're going to work from this is these guys don't know what's coming, all right? They've got a guy across from them. You'll see this, and we're going to reach a down. We're going to go a reach block, a down block, a base block, which means he's coming straight at me, driving me out like an ISO or something like that. We're going to work a pull. What happens when that guy pulls? A lot of you guys know the dart or just the T series of pulling the tackle or the H-backs. A lot of people pull H-backs now. So what do we do? What should our steps be from our stance? And then what happens when I get pass? If I get a pass set. Now, pass set, that's a week-to-week thing for us. All right. So there are some weeks you get a pass set, that means a blitz trigger. There are some weeks it means a drop. So our guys have got to know. There's some weeks it means don't drop, but don't trigger, like depending on what guys are doing and honestly what the call is. So he's got to, that's a tough thing. Okay, here's the call. Now what do you do on your pass set, right? So that's a big deal for us. Those outside linebackers, again, we expect those guys to be dogs, so they got to know all this stuff. But here's kind of, pretty basic how this stuff works. All right, so he's reading here. You can see that's a reach read. This kid does a better job of ripping off, right? But he doesn't do a better job of stopping that reach initially. So one thing I don't like, I think we're a little wide in our stance here. We should, the stance is fine. We want to stagger that, and I could talk the whole time on stance, but we want to stagger that. We want to point that to his outside shoulder. But I would like to see us closing the gap and closing space, knowing we can defeat a reach block. Because what happens here is if I'm this wide on a regular basis, I'm going to have to defeat a reach block. You're just going to keep coming out here and kicking my rear end out or something of that nature. And now, it doesn't matter. So I've got to get a stance that's a little more neutral. So he needs to be probably, a foot or two off of this guy's outside foot with his foot, and we want him about 2 yards out. So this is a little tight. This guy in this video is a lot better. So we're wide here. He's reading. He gets a reach, bang, he attacks it. I like where he keeps his shoulder, and he does rip off at the end. All right? So let me get back to this one now. So we're moving on now. You can see that's a down. So I want to take, and what I want to coach is to get tight as possible when I read that. Keep my outside pad free, but get tight as possible when I read this. I don't do the pulls when we're working these reads so we can rotate through, right? So this guy's gone, he's going, boom. I do the pulls when we're just working the down so they understand that's part of it, right? It would take me another guy, and my group isn't quite large enough to rotate through there, and I don't feel good about those guys getting the look I need. Because, this guy right here, if he's hitting my fourth or fifth guy in the back, back into that, he might be taking his head off. These other guys he's working with today is fine. So that drill, I can kind of control that drill and who hits who earlier, all right? So, again, that's a down block. You can see him react. As soon as that happens, down, boom, he needs to fit, all right? So that makes my guys train their eyes to where they're supposed to be. All my drills are working where those guys are having to train their eyes, all right? Okay, so right here, you can see now we're getting a base block. This is a base block for us. This is actually terrible by the guy. He gives up a ton of space inside here. He reacts like it's a reach, and it's not. He feels the guy turn. And so this is why I want to work the reach versus the base on a regular basis, all right? So right here, he's trying to jump it, all right? He's got his body, in position right there. See how much higher he is, all right? He's a lot higher at that point than where we want him, so it's a good coaching point for us. We want to get underneath that guy, sit his butt back in the hole. But the thing I do like is at the end of this, he is able to play off because he does have enough, strength and control there to play off. I don't know why he plays outside, though, because he has no back here to tell him to play outside, right? So he shouldn't just jump outside. So, again, that's why I'm going to coach him up on, hey, just stick that guy there in the hole. Don't jump out afterwards, all right? All right, so these are the next ones. It's going to kind of run through them. This is the pull here.
Coach, got a question for you.
Okay.
After the down block, where is
Right.
the outside linebacker directing his eyes? To the quarterback in the mesh or down the line looking for work?
No, so what he is doing when he's directing his eyes, he's directing he's expecting, he gets a down, he's expecting a puller. And when we've drawn all this up, if he's getting a down block, he's expecting a puller. So his eyes are going down there first. Now, if you're working a down, like a zone block down away from him, right, then his eyes are going, again, right off the butt of that guy. If he sees nobody, now he is directing his eyes to the quarterback. But here's the thing, Coach, is how a lot of guys, inside backers in a 4-2 or even inside backers in a 3-4, those guys are reading what they call a triangle, right? So they're reading the two guards and the tailback quarterback type deal, right? I expect my guys to be able to read that tackle and the back if the back is to his side. Okay, so I expect that guy goes to this down block. I expect him to see that guy coming back, but if that back or quarterback, he's reading through the tackle to the backfield, right? So that's kind of where that needs to be. All right, so that's great question there. Again, you see the pull. Now, what we want to hear, this is the one I do want to play the sound for you because he does make the call. He should. And I know it's not real likely guys hear it, but I want it in a habit, and I want to know he sees it. So you can hear him. Pull, right? I mean, that's what he should be saying, right? Or bump. Either one is fine. But he's letting those other guys know he's now fitting gaps this way, the way the run fits work. If that guy goes there over to the other side, he's creating a gap on the other side, right? So we have to fit that gap. We have to understand that gap's moving. It's a mobile gap. So we've got to be able to do that. Now, I understand with RPOs, somebody could be reading this cat right here, right? So they pull and he's reading the backside. That's why we have played so much man coverage, and I don't worry as much about it in our man. If we get beat man to man on RPO, then we got issues there. That's where we got to address. I don't want to address that with my reads and my linebackers all the time. Now, again, if we have a different coverage, now he knows I got to play slow, and we talk about that. We'll work this drill out of man. We'll work this drill out of cover 2. We'll work this drill out of our cover. Well, I don't want to give away all my coverages because just being here, but we'll work this drill out of all our multiple coverages there. Okay, all our checks too, especially our trips checks.
Coach, another question for you. What is his alignment for an H-back versus that of a tackle?
Okay, so we're working off that outside guy. It's going to depend on that H-back's alignment. Okay, so if that H-back is stacked behind the tackle, we're essentially going to be in the same position. If that H-back gets wide, we're still going to be, in a position where my inside foot that's up is probably 1 to 2 feet away from that cat's outside foot, right? Away from his outside foot. So, and that may change, Coach, if we feel like it's a coverage problem. So if you got an H-back who can block everybody and their brother, and he can also get down the field, I'm going to have to just play a little tighter and make him block me maybe a little bit, have a chance of somebody getting the edge on me, but I got to play him tighter so he can't go vertical on me in the pass game. So we'll adjust that slightly each week, but we'll start with about a foot or two outside of his outside foot with my inside foot, right? All right, so right here, what you're going to see is bang pass, and we want to get out. So that's our drop. So he sees the pass. Now, my outside linebackers are not great at giving us a pass set. So, we got to maybe get him over to OL coach for one day and get some work on the pass set here so we know what's going on. Boom. But he at least understands that's pass. We're going backwards. We're kicking. And our kick slides could use some work, but we'll be all right without that too much. You can see get out. Again, now, we will work this depending on the week and depending on the quarterback, right? What are we trying to do with that quarterback? What stunt do I have on? What is this guy's responsibility? If I get a pass set right here, and that was Drake May, I want to keep that cat in the pocket, we may go ahead and trigger, right? We may go ahead and trigger and be an outside rush now. So, it just depends on what the call is there. But typically, we're gonna know that week, and we're gonna work that a little more to make sure those guys know, hey, it's different this week than it was last week. All right, coverage progression, and I'm gonna try and go through this pretty quick. Big thing here is we start off with scooch, all right, and then I work scooch technique and this is our off coverage. Remember, scooch is our off, and that's at 4 to 5 yards, depending on the kid. And then I'm gonna work specific routes, so he knows exactly where his feet should go when somebody runs an out route on him, a drag route, a corner, and a wheel. We work verse, work all kind of other things. To me, these are the big 4 at a slot position. You got to be able to work from where our leverage is, all right? Now, in all these techniques, whether we're talking about scooch or press, and depending on the coverage, you got to know your leverage. I'm not going over leverage a whole lot. I'm just going over the drills. That's going to change depending on the coverage. But know your leverage, know where your eyes should be based on your leverage. So we're going to work scooch, the routes out of scooch, and then we're going to do it from a reaction so he doesn't know what's going to happen, okay? Then we're going to work it from a press, just a release standpoint. Then we're going to work these press routes. I know I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to work these ball drills, look and lean, hands and eyes, go through what those are, and then our breaks. And then we'll work one-on-ones. I don't like to work press with my DBs on DBs routes a whole lot, and that's basically what your inside guy is, your slot. He's covering slot because, let's be honest, especially you might be all right at corner and in safety. You got outside linebackers trying to run routes, right? And even if you're telling them the route to run, you get pissed more than anything else, right? You don't get as much out of it. So I would rather do these things and then work more one-on-ones if I got time to do it, all right? So here's kind of our progression. And I want this is one of the things I think we do that's cool. It seems like a simple thing, but it makes again, the drill be, the same every day. Our practice field is lined. This is the game field right now, but our practice field is lined. Each one of these guys is on a line, right? That line simulates his man, all right? So what we normally, these guys are looking at me because we don't have enough guys out, but normally what they'll do is they'll have a guy on the other side. Can you guys see my cursor, Coach? Okay. So what these guys will do is they'll have another guy in front of them here. And those guys are the ones actually looking at me. So those guys are looking at me, and now when I give him a hand signal, they're going to give this guy a hand signal. So now he's reacting off of a reaction, right? So our coverage progression is just a scooch right here. So the scooch is just 1, 2, 3. Bang, that's it. Now, I don't like how he comes up. I want him to stay down, just like this kid is, all right? Scooch 1, 2, 3, and stop. This is, again, spring practice, boom, 1, 2, 3. This is not good by this kid. He looks really awkward, all right? All right, we don't want that much weight on our front foot. We want to just front foot, push back and replace, push back and replace. This kid's a little bit better. He's cocked a little bit too much for me. I don't coach him up too much, though, because he can cover like a corner. So I don't want to mess him up too much. He was covering a couple of D1 receivers as a sophomore in the third round of state playoffs this year. Did a pretty daggone good job. So you can see, though, all their eyes are trained on me. I give them a reaction of a hand, and then, boom, there they go, right? This guy is more of an inside linebacker, run fit guy. But you can see, and you can tell that. Watch how much more stiff he is. See how his feet just moved and went nowhere the first time? But again, that's why we got to work with those guys. Somebody puts them in a bind, they have to cover. They got to know how to do this stuff. All right? All right, so next, now we're going to do this and react. All right, so the reaction here is down, so you see the guy loses balance. That's why we do it. They don't know where it is. They're reading my hand. All right, so they're going to scooch, boom, react, get down there. Right? And now we're going to start working routes. So now, boom, it's the out route. They know what's coming, right? Run that out correctly, right? Run that out correctly. So now, I'm giving them, and this really should be before that one, I'm giving them, I know which route, I know which route, I know which route. Then this one is, okay, I'm reacting to Coach's hand right there, right? Coach moves his hand, now his hand's back down. And again, what I do with that is I have these guys all looking at me who they're in front of, on opposite these guys, and they're reacting to what my hand signal is. So everybody's giving the same hand signals, and that lets those guys go. And I wish I was in front of you guys. Let me see if I can. Hey, Coach, I need to stop share, right, in order to show this. Right, so what I want to do, I'm going to stand up and show this. What I want to do with that hand is I put it by my hip because that's where I want the eyes. And I move it, and I give an out route symbol. I move it, I give a vertical. I move it, I give it back down. So those guys are mimicking that signal to make sure that they know exactly when to react, and they're getting that same reaction out of all that, all right? So let me get back here. All right, so that's our, kind of how our progression is. Again, with that, we're going through, and those guys, I only showed the out route. I didn't show all the 4 routes, but we go over how to run the wheel, where my feet should be, all those things before we actually get a subject to cover. So I want them to understand landmarks and all. And we do this so our kids, too, they understand how deep am I. So we normally have the numbers painted out here, and, that lets me know I'm at 9 yards. So if my receiver's here and I'm at 9 yards, I'm too friggin' deep in my initial stance, right? I should be halfway between the numbers and the sideline here so that I know I'm at 5 yards. And I think that's important because now they're having to get set every day. They also learn more about the field, how much space it is, and it's just something. So when I say, hey, get on the 9s, they know that means, get on the numbers, bottom of the numbers. All right, so now from a press standpoint, the first thing we kind of do is just get them in a press stance. Again, you can see the variety of stances we got here. In spite of the fact we're trying to coach this about the same. We're going to take, he's probably back on his heels just a little too much. He may be bent over just a hair too much. But what they want to do here is initially, all we're going to do initially is just learn how to rip and run with a guy, right? Where's my pressure on my feet need to be? Inside on the big toes. My knees need to be slightly in. I need to be able to slide left and right very easily. And right now you can see the line. So I'm the ball. That means I'm in inside leverage at this point, all right, in this coverage. So you can watch them, right? And right here, boom, they slide and they take off, right? That's a punch step. Wow, that went way back. So what we want to see is that slide and punch step right there. Now, I want to see more of a slide. So what I do with this is I make sure they're over here on this side of the line, so they got space to slide to the receiver. The idea is close space to the receiver. The line is the receiver. Close space to the receiver, right? Track his hip. I should also see those eyes go down to the line, right? Now, they all go up right here. So that's something I would come back and coach. Get your eyes down the line, because that means your eyes are going down the hip of the wide receiver right now. This kid, again, is our better cover guy. His eyes are down a little more. You can see both these guys a little faster than this dude, all right, and moving this because he doesn't work it as much, right? Let's play this one more time here. Slide, and that's what I should see. Screen went blank there, all right? Slide, and I want to run, get my eyes up. Now, the other thing I want to see here is I want to look and lean. So I didn't put those drills in here, but I want to look and lean here, all right? I want to look up, not back, up, because that's where the ball's going to be. And I want to lean into this guy, and I should be able to run that line, leaning into that line, okay? And that's a skill, guys. None of us were born knowing how to run, leaning to our right or our left. All right, we want to run straight. That's something those guys have got to learn how to do and learn how to be able to play the ball up. Once we learn how to do that, I will throw a ball, and one of those guys has to go get it. From there, we'll work ball drills where we're running, looking lean. I didn't go over all that stuff because it's outside linebacker presentation. That's more of a DB talk, but I have that if anybody wants it. So here, now, what if we're getting a drag route? Okay, what if we're getting a drag route? We got to continue to fight across face. We're just going to work our feet slide, all right? And then I love when guys work that offhand punch, and they work it, but the real truth of the matter is you're not going to offhand punch more than twice. You better turn and run. No matter how good you are, you're going to be chasing it at that point. So that's what we work. We work two offhand punches, right, and then run. Two offhand punches and then run. So they know it's a drag, I'm running with it, all right? Again, this is not a reactionary drill. This is telling these guys you're in a press stance, and the way we do that is you can't see it from this angle because I'm videoing from this side, but we run to that next to 10 yards over because the drags will probably go all the way across the formation. And then we want to get our eyes, I want to see the eyes come back to center at that point and find where the ball would be coming from. That's what I want to see, all right? So that's why we work that drill typically is we're 1, 2, boom, run to the next 10 yard, that line. Once you hit that line, shoot your eyes and shoot your hands, all right? So that's kind of how our coverage progression goes. Again, not a lot of detail in the coverage progression with it. So if anybody's got questions, I'm glad to answer those and look forward to doing that about some of the things that we're doing.
You can see the chat, right, Coach?
Yeah, I can see it now. Put it up.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Coach? Feel free to ask away. While y'all are doing that, it's become a common theme here. Make sure you drop your Twitter handle in the chat, man, so we can stay connected and follow each other and learn from each other. So just drop your Twitter handle in the chat, man, and we'll do our best to follow each other, man, and continue to push this thing forward, man. Coach, how can if anybody wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
Sure. Email is probably the best way, and I should have put that up on my last slide, but it's just my name. It's BRYANTILL, and that's at Richmond.K12.NC. That's North Carolina, NC.US. And then, our school kind of blocks some of the stuff with Twitter and some of that stuff during the day. So while I love Twitter and we have to kind of circumnavigate that to put our stuff up or do it after we get home or send it to somebody to put up for us during the day, all of our social media stuff that you see. So, the best way, most hours of the day I'm here, my email's on my phone. So my email is probably the best way to get in touch with me if there's anything I can do to help. Yeah, that's it right there, Coach. Perfect. Yeah, I should have typed it in there.
Post it in there so everybody can get it.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal.
Coach, I appreciate it, man. If nobody's got any questions, that's great, man. Thanks so much for that. And again, thank you to you for putting all this on. This is high level stuff, high speed.
No, this is awesome. And once again, Coach, thank you so much for taking your time to come in and talk to these guys and share your outside linebacker play. I know, once again, man, any opportunity for a coach to come in and talk and share some knowledge, man, is beneficial to not only yourself or being able to present, but obviously for all these coaches, man. So I know everybody, I know myself, I grabbed a lot from that, and it was great. And I'm sure I speak for the rest of the coaches where, just want to say thank you for your time, man, and continue to do your thing. So does anyone have any more coaches, questions for Coach? Just shoot me if anybody's looking for this presentation. Coach gave the okay, so if anybody wants it, I recorded it. So just shoot me a DM on Twitter, and I'll do my best. Obviously, we got a lot going on. There's been a lot of sessions and things like that. So just be patient. Just be patient with me to get it to you, but 100% will.
Awesome. All right, Coach. Thanks again.